Good evening. Am I audible to all of you? Please check. Yes? Okay. So I believe the last time we met, we had discussed the first topic of error correction that was related to modifiers. We discussed misplaced modifiers, dangling modifiers, and also the concept of split infinitives. Now we'll take the discussion further, and today we are going to discuss about something called subject-verb agreement. It is a lengthy topic because there are lots of rules and you are expected to remember all these rules. Now, what exactly are subject-verb agreement rules? First, we'll take a look at them, and then we'll try to solve some questions and try to find out whether there are errors or the sentence is error-free. Now, in grammar, we all know that every sentence, every sentence that you form has to have a subject and a verb. If there is no subject or no verb, then you cannot call that group of words a sentence. Every sentence will have a subject and a verb. And also you need to remember that the subject and the verb must agree in number. They must agree in number means that if your subject is singular, then you will have to use a singular verb. If your subject is plural, then you will have to use a plural verb. So there has to be subject and verb agreement as far as number is concerned. Okay. Now, normally when we frame sentences, normal sentences, it's very easy to to find out whether the subject is singular or whether it is plural. Generally, it is very easy to find out whether the subject is singular or plural, and accordingly we use a verb that is either singular or plural. But sometimes in the examinations, what they will do is, in the exams, they will write sentences in such a way that you will be confused whether the subject is singular or whether it is plural. And if you are confused about the subject, if you don't know whether the subject is singular or plural, then there can be a problem. Then you don't know whether the verb that you need to use is singular or plural. So it's very important that as a first step to correct subject-verb agreement errors, it is important that you know what is the subject. Okay, so there are many rules that tell you in different situations what is going to be the subject, whether the subject is going to be singular or plural. So all the rules that we will discuss, these rules will help us determine whether the subject is singular or plural, and accordingly we'll have to use a verb that is singular or plural. That is what these rules will do. Now, I told you that this is a very simple statement. It is very simple to say that subject and verb must agree in number. But in examinations will try to make the subject of each sentence as confusing as possible. And that is why if you can't find the subject, then you will not be able to make the verb agree with it. And then there'll be a problem. So that is why it is very important that you first determine what is the subject of the sentence. There are so many ways. There are so many ways in which you can find out what is the subject of a sentence. Some common ways, some general sentences I will just show you. It is very easy to identify what exactly is the subject in these sentences. But there are some complicated cases also. Those are cases that we will take through the rules. Okay. For example, now how will you find out what is the subject of the sentence? Always in the sentence, see the someone or something doing the action or being talked about in the sentence is the subject. We know that. Alternatively, the person, the place, the animal, or the thing that you are talking about is the subject of the sentence. Very simple. For example, if I say Jasper gasped at the mummy's sudden movement, Jasper gasped at the mummy's sudden movement. If you ask yourself who performed the action, who gasped, we all know it is Jasper. So immediately we know that the subject of this sentence is Jasper. Okay? This is a very simple way. Now, if I ask you, there are some examples here you can see. It says Rahul eats. So who eats? Rahul. So what is the subject? Rahul. In number 2, it says most people in the world hate Hitler. So who hates Hitler? People. What is the subject here? People. Who is performing the action? People. So people is the subject here. Similarly, when I say my group of fourth graders is well behaved. So who is well behaved? The group. The group is well behaved. That is another matter, that this group is of fourth graders. Now this is important because there is a rule connected to this. Generally it says that if there is a subject here and there is a verb here and you have an of construction, you have some information over here which starts with the word of, then generally that information is considered extra information. You should ignore this information to find out whether your subject is singular or plural. So the group is well behaved. My group is well behaved. The subject is group, which is singular, and that is why we have used singular verb is. When I say the set of all numbers from 1 to infinity is called whole numbers. Can you tell me what is the subject in this sentence? It should be set. The set. This set is of all numbers from 1 to infinity. This actually is extra information. This is extra information. I will discuss this later on, but as of now, you just need to know that this is extra information, and we generally ignore this extra information when we want to find out what is the subject. So the set is singular. That is why we have used a singular verb is. Is this clear? These are simple examples. These are simple examples. Okay, these are simple examples. Okay, we will introduce complications later now. Also understand that there can be sentences where you can have multiple subjects and also multiple verbs. It's not always the case that the sentence will just have one subject. No, there can be multiple subjects and there can be multiple verbs also. For example, you can see some examples of sentences that have multiple subjects. If I say Lola and Lulu ganged up on George yesterday to his dismay and defeat. So both Lola and Lulu are the subjects because both of them performed the action. Similarly, the omelette and fries revolted Egworthy. So both the omelette and the fries, because they revolted, they are the subjects. So we have multiple subjects. Snot and Squirm were the only two dwarfs expelled from Snow White's band. So who were expelled? Snot and Squirm, both. So we have multiple subjects here. Similarly, what does the second sentence mean? Okay. The omelette and fries revolted Egworthy. Omelette is one entity, fries is one entity. You can consider it person A and person B. Person A and person B, they revolted person C. That means they don't like person C. They don't want to follow person C. That person's name is Egworthy. Okay. Some examples of sentences that have multiple verbs. Over here you can see George. What did George do? He snatched the atomic secret and quickly stashed it in his navel. So George performed two actions, snatched and stashed. Similarly, Ella ranted for hours about Larry's refusal to hold an engagement party. And then what did she do? She crept home. So she performed two actions. First, she ranted and then she crept home. Number third, Eggworthy came out of his shell last winter, but didn't stay there. So there are two things that Eggworthy did. He came out, but he didn't stay there. Multiple verbs. So I've shown you some sentences that have multiple subjects and multiple verbs. Now, the first step is to identify what is the subject. Okay. So I will ask you in these following 5 sentences, can you tell me what is the subject? Number 1, as is the case with his friends, Rahul is not interested in attending lecture. Can you tell me what is the subject in number 1? It is Rahul. Very good. Sentence 2, Rahul, like all his friends, does not like attending lectures. Number 2, sentence number 2, what is the subject? Okay, all of you are saying Rahul. Friends nahi? Not his friends? Okay, only Rahul. Very good. Yes, very good. Absolutely. Number 3, Sumesh as well as Randeep is in a habit of ogling at girls. Now what is the subject? Sumesh and Randeep, Sumesh and Randeep, Sumesh and Randeep. Everybody is saying Sumesh and Randeep. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. Only Sumesh. Okay? Whenever after the subject you have words like this, as well as, along with, they are actually called additives. They are called additives, and additives are nothing but extra information. They are modifiers. Additives are nothing but modifiers. And in subject-verb agreement, there is a rule that when you see modifiers, ignore them. Ignore them. So it is just Sumesh. It's not Randeep. We will discuss this rule. The word is, this is the verb. This also indicates that your subject is singular. Absolutely. Absolutely. What about number 4? Sumesh and Randeep are in a habit of ogling at girls. Now in this case, yes, in this case both. Because no matter what happens, if the connection between two subjects is with the word and, then automatically the subject becomes plural. With a few exceptions. There are a few exceptions, but generally whenever the connection between two subjects is with the use of the word and, then the subject becomes plural. So Sumesh and Randeep both. Absolutely. Number 5. The entire amount of 200 crores was spent on infrastructure. What is the subject? The subject is amount. This amount is of 200 crores. That is extra information about the amount. Okay. So over here, our subject is amount. Absolutely. Did you understand this? Okay. Okay. Now, if we are able to identify subjects, if we are able to find out what exactly is our subject, we will know whether the subject is singular or plural. Now, first, when we identify whether the subject is singular or plural, the next step is to identify whether a verb is singular or plural. How do you know whether a verb is singular or plural? Tell me. How will you come to know whether a verb is singular or plural? Anything that can work? Subject. Okay. No, Nikita, forget the subject. In isolation, if there is a verb, how do you know that the verb is singular or plural? Forget the subject. You will have to change the verb according to the subject. If the subject is singular, you will have to use a singular verb. If the subject is plural, you will have to use a plural verb. But the problem is, how do you know whether the verb is singular or plural? Yes, Pragya, absolutely. Absolutely. Very, 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 very good. All verbs that end in an S are always singular. All verbs that end in an S are always singular. Very good. And all verbs that do not end in an S are plural. So it's a very easy way of finding out whether a verb is singular or plural. Okay. So I'll just show you this. Okay, like I said, the basic rule, the basic rule states that if you have a singular subject, you should use a singular verb. If you have a plural subject, you should use a plural verb in the sentence. The trick is in knowing whether the subject is singular or plural. How will we know whether the subject is singular or plural? I will tell you. There are many rules. Simple ones we know, but complicated ones. What are the rules? In which situation the subject becomes singular? In which situation the subject becomes plural? That is what in this entire class we will discuss. So the first thing that you need to know whether the subject is singular or plural, and the next trick is finding out whether a verb is singular or plural. And like I said, how do you find out whether the verb is singular or plural? Very, very easy. Very, very easy. If the verb ends in an S, you can see examples. Is, was, has, does, describes, presents, walks. Then it is singular. And we should use it with subjects that are singular. But if the subject is plural, then we will have to use plural verbs. And you can see plural verbs never end in an S. Plural verbs are verbs like are, were, have, do or do not, describe, present, walk, talk, swim, study. So very simple. It is very simple to identify. So what is the first rule? The first rule is that if your subject is singular, use a singular verb. If the subject is plural, use a plural verb. You can see examples over here. The dog. Now, the dog is singular. That is why I have used a singular verb. The dog runs out of the house. But if the subject is plural, if I say the dogs, it becomes plural. Then I cannot use the word runs. I will have to say run. The dogs run out of the house. Okay? This is the first rule. What happened, Priyanka? What slide? The previous one? You are not able to see. Is it visible to everyone? Yes. Now it is visible. I think your internet connection is slow, Priyanka. That is why it is taking time to load the PPT. Your connection is slow. If possible, can you switch to another one? Yeah, okay. Now, even though this is the most basic rule, the problem with subject-verb agreement is that there are lots of exceptions. There are lots of exceptions, and we are expected to remember all those exceptions. This is the most basic rule, and it is applicable in almost everywhere. But then there is an exception. What is the exception? The exception is that the words I and you, these two words, these two pronouns I and you, even though they are singular, okay, even though they are singular, they will always require plural forms of the verb. This is the exception to rule number 1. What happened to the voice? Are you able to hear me, Mohit? Yes? Okay. So what is the exception to rule number 1? There are two pronouns, two words, I and you. Even though these two words are singular, they will always require plural forms of the verb. So we say, I talk to my friends. You can't say, I talks to my friends. Similarly, you swim so well. You can't say, you swim so well. So remember this. Remember rule number 1 and remember the exceptions to rule number 1. Let's move to rule number 2. What happens in rule number 2? Rule number 2 states that if there are two singular subjects, if you have two subjects and both of them are singular and they are connected by words or, either or, neither nor, then the subject becomes singular and you will need to use a singular verb. So even though you have two subjects and both these subjects are singular and they are connected by the words or, either or neither nor, then the subject becomes singular, and that is why you will require a singular verb. Now this is something in which many people make lots of mistakes. So just take a look at the sentences. Most of the people will say my uncle or my aunt are arriving by train today. But that's wrong. My aunt, which is singular, or my uncle is arriving by train today. Both of them are not arriving. One of them is arriving. So my aunt or my uncle is arriving by train today. Rule number 2. Okay. Similarly, neither Juan nor Carmen is available. Juan and Carmen both are singular, connected by the words neither nor. That is why we'll have to use a singular verb. The same thing happens in the next example. Either Kiana or Casey is helping today with stage decorations. You can't say are helping. There are two singular subjects, Kiana and Casey, and they are connected with the words neither and or. So you'll have to use a singular verb. This is rule number 2, without any exceptions. Nikita, this is an exception only for these three. This is an exception only for these three. This is not an exception, Nikita. This is the rule. This is the rule. If there are two subjects, One is Juan, one is Carmen, and both of them are singular. Both of them are singular, okay? And they are connected by neither nor, either or simply the word or. Then the subject becomes singular, and that is why you have to use a singular verb. If one of them is singular and the other one is plural, then something else will happen. Okay, only these three connectors. Yes, generally only these three connectors. Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, Mohit, you are saying a dog runs and dogs run. Can you explain which verb is plural? Okay. The verb, very simple. The verb that ends in an S is singular. Remember that. Those verbs that end in an S, they are singular. S stands for singular. So, runs is singular. Whereas, run does not end in an S. It is plural. That is how you will identify whether the verb is singular or plural. Mohit. Okay. Okay, so this is rule number 2. Without any exception, this is rule number 2. Let's come to rule number 3 now. Rule number 3 states that there are two subjects. One of the subjects is singular and the other subject is plural. Okay, now the situation here is different. One subject is singular and the other one is plural, and they are connected by words like or, either or, neither nor, not only but also. Then what will happen? Then you will find that subject which is nearest to the verb. Okay, you will find which subject is closest to the verb, and you will make sure that the verb agrees in number with this subject. So if the singular subject is closer to the verb will become singular. If the plural subject is closer to the verb will become plural. It's as simple as that. So one subject is singular, other one is plural, and they are connected by words like or, neither nor, not only but also. Then find the subject which is closest to the verb and make the verb agree in number with this subject. This is the rule. Rule number 3. Some examples are here. You can see examples over here. Neither Joe nor his friends. Okay, one is singular, one is plural. Joe is singular, friends is plural. Neither Joe nor his friends are going to the beach. Why are? Because this verb is closer to the plural subject. But I can rearrange this sentence. I can rearrange the sentence and then everything will change. I can write it like this. Neither his friends nor Joe is going to the beach. Why is? Because it's closer to Joe, which is singular. Okay, did you get this? Other examples are here. Other examples are here. Either the senators or the president. Most of the people will say are misinformed. They believe that senators and president they dono hone chahiye. But what you need to see is that if the connection is with either or. So only one of them. Either the senators or the president is misinformed. Or I can change it. I can change it and I can write like this. Either the president or the senators are misinformed. Why? Because the verb is now closer to senators, which is plural. Okay. Another example is here. Not only the students, but also their professor. So we have two subjects, students and professor, plural and singular. And the verb is closer to the subject that is singular. That is why it becomes singular. Not only the students, but also their professor looks forward to the final exam. This is how it works. Rule number 3. Okay. Now let's come to rule number 4. Now this is very important. This is very important. Rule number 4. Please remember that the word of generally introduces a modifier. Do not get confused by subjects that are followed by the word of. So if after the subject you see the word of, then all this till you reach the verb, everything that comes after the of sentence till you reach the verb, all of that is considered to be a modifier. So do not get confused by subjects followed by the word of. These of constructions are just clever middlemen that try to disguise the true subject. And just as with other middlemen, you should eliminate the of construction in order to find out whether your subject is singular or plural. So don't get confused by of constructions. I think I have already told you about this. I'll show you more examples here. Over here you can see the discovery of new lands was or were vital to the expansion of the British Empire. We are actually talking about the discovery. The subject is the discovery. Of new lands is extra information about this discovery. Similarly, I can say the building of tall skyscrapers has or have increased in the past few years. We are talking about the building, which is singular. So we have to use a singular verb, has. Mohit, you said, oh, why? There is something that you realized? Yes, okay. Is this rule clear? Rule number 4, eliminate of constructions because they are just modifiers. You need to eliminate modifiers. Only then you will come to know what exactly is the real subject. Right. The actions of my friend is or are not very wise. Our subject is the actions, which is plural. Yes, that is why I have to use a plural verb, are. Good, very good. Now, let's come to rule number 5. Rule number 5 says that indefinite pronouns are usually, not always, okay? Indefinite pronouns are usually singular subjects. Indefinite pronouns are usually singular, and therefore they will require singular verb forms. Majority of indefinite pronouns are singular. What are indefinite pronouns? We all know. What exactly is a pronoun? Pronoun is a substitute for a noun. Okay? Pronoun is a substitute for a noun, we know that. Now, there are some pronouns that are personal. Some pronouns are personal. That means when we use these pronouns, we know exactly who we are talking about. For example, when I use pronouns like I, we, they, she, her, when I use these kind of pronouns, I know exactly who I'm talking about, right? But when I use pronouns in which I'm not talking about anybody specific. For example, if I say someone has stolen my book, someone, कौन है ये? I don't know, but it is someone. So someone is also a pronoun. Why it is a pronoun? Because this word someone is applicable to the 6 billion. Now I think the population is 6.5 billion. 6.5 billion on this earth. Out of these 6.5 billion, there is one person who has stolen my book. Who is that person? I don't know. So it is not definite. It is indefinite. Okay. So remember that indefinite pronouns are usually considered singular, and that is why they will require singular verb forms. Whatever I just discussed, it's here. Pronouns are those words that replace other nouns or pronouns. An indefinite pronoun is one that is not specific about the thing to which it refers. For example, the word anyone is an example of an indefinite pronoun. When I say anyone, anyone is eligible. I'm not talking about uh, a specific person. Right now, I don't know who that person is. But anyone is eligible for this contest. So anyone is an example of an indefinite pronoun. So there are lots of indefinite pronouns you can see over here. And you'll also notice that all the pronouns that end in one, body or thing, they fall in this category. They fall in the indefinite pronoun category. Okay, you can see anyone, anybody, anything, everyone, everybody, everything. So when you say everyone, it is an indefinite pronoun. Everyone is ready. You use the word is. Everyone is ready. Can you say everyone are ready? No. We say something is wrong. Can we say something are wrong? No. So what does this tell you? This tells you that indefinite pronouns, when indefinite pronouns are subjects, then generally indefinite pronouns are singular. And that is why you will have to use singular mode. Right? This is as simple as that. But now, we'll also have to discuss exceptions. There are exceptions also. So let us take a look at exceptions. The exceptions that we will discuss are exceptions to rule number 4 and rule number 5. What are the exceptions to rule number 4 and 5? There are 3 exceptions to rule number 4 and 5. Number 1. First exception is that there are 5 indefinite pronouns which can be both singular or plural depending on the context of the sentence. Generally, indefinite pronouns are singular, but there are 5 indefinite pronouns that can be both singular or plural depending on the context. What are these 5 indefinite pronouns? You can remember these 5 indefinite pronouns through the mnemonic sanam. Okay, this mnemonic is composed of the first initial of each word. What are these 5 sanam pronouns? These 5 sanam pronouns that are indefinite and can be both singular or plural. They are some, any, none, all, and most. So these 5 pronouns, even though they are indefinite pronouns, they can be both singular or plural. Some, any, none, all, and most. Now the question is, how do you know whether they are singular or plural? How do you know in the sentence whether these pronouns are singular or plural? Because they can be both singular as well as plural. For the surname pronouns, you will have to break rule number 4. You will have to break rule number 4. If you remember rule number 4, rule number 4 was about off constructions. Whatever comes after the off construction, ignore it. That was rule number 4. For the surname pronoun, you will have to break that rule. Because for the surname pronouns, whatever comes after the off construction is the subject. And it will tell you whether it is singular or plural. So, how can you tell if the surname pronouns are singular or plural? For that, you will have to look at the off construction which follows the pronoun. Now, you may recall that you are generally supposed to ignore the off constructions because they are misleading middlemen. That is what we discussed in rule number 4. But surname pronouns are the exceptions to this rule. Whatever comes after the off construction, that means whatever is the object of the off construction, will determine the number of the subject. So you'll have to break rule number 4 here. For example, if you look at surname pronoun, it says some of the money was stolen. Now this actually is the off construction. But because it is a surname pronoun, I will have to look at the off construction. In the off construction, we have money. Money is singular. That is why I have to use singular verb was. Some of the money was stolen from the wallet. But then it can be plural also. If I say some of the documents, now the subject is documents, plural. Some of the documents were stolen from the bank. I have to use a plural verb, were. So that depends on the situation. Okay? That depends on the situation. Okay. Yes, Mohit, what is your question? Money is subject or some? Money becomes the subject, Mohit. When you have a surname pronoun, then whatever comes after the off construction becomes the subject. That is what I'm trying to tell you. In the first case, it is money. In the second case, it is documents. Okay. In fact, there is a classic question of CAT. None of us was or were going to the party. None of us was or were going to the party. What will you select? Were. All of you will select were. Okay. Because none is a surname pronoun. Okay, none is a surname pronoun. So whatever comes after the off construction, that is going to be a subject. So your subject is us. Okay. But if you check the dictionary, you will see that the word us is both singular and plural. It is both singular and plural. It can be used in both ways. So now the question is, what do we do? Should we mark was or should we mark were? Okay. So even though in that particular year in which this question appeared in CAT, leave to Nikita. I will tell you. Okay. I will tell you what to do. Okay. There is a general rule that if you are confused whether the subject is singular or plural, there is a 90% chance that the subject is singular. Okay, it is always safer to be on the singular side. Even though there is a 10% chance, that it can be plural, but there's a 90% chance that it is singular. You will see that most of the rules that we will discuss, all of them will somehow, most of them will try to tell you that it is singular, 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 even though it looks plural. So this is the general rule. This is the general rule. So to be on the safer side, it is always advisable to mark was. None of us was going to attend the party. So if you are in such a situation, it's better to mark a singular verb. Okay. Priyanka, your question is how is it singular? None none का मतलब no one भी हो सकता है, not any भी हो सकता है. So it can work both ways. It can work both ways. When it is no one, it is singular. When it is not any, it's plural. Oh, you are asking how is us singular? Uh, oh yeah. How is us singular? Yes. If I'm using it in a collective sense, it is singular. But Nikita, actually collectives can also be plural. Collectives can also be plural. So it can work both ways, singular and plural both. And the word none also can be both singular and plural. Okay. Okay. I'll show you some more examples. I'll show you some more examples here. But before that, we have discussed the first exception to rule 4 and 5. Let us discuss exception number 2 to rule 4 and 5. Exception number 2 says that those words that indicate portions, those words are words like percent, fraction, part, majority, some, all, none. This is already included in the Sanam pronouns. Remainder, these kind of words, because they indicate portions, for these kind of words also, whatever comes after the off phrase will determine whether you have to use a singular or a plural verb. This is exception number 2 to rule number 4 and 5. If you are using some word that indicate portions, then whatever comes after the off construction will determine whether the subject is singular or plural. So you are again breaking rule number 4. You are again breaking rule number 4 of ignoring the off construction. For example, over here he says, if the object of the preposition is singular, use a singular verb. If the object of the preposition is plural, then use a plural verb. So if after the word of the subject is singular, use singular verb. Otherwise, use a plural verb. This happens when you are using a word that indicates portion. Some example sentences are here. You can see over here, the first one is here, 50%. 50% is a portion. 50% of the pie. So what is the subject here? Pie. It is singular. That is why I'll have to use has. 50% of the pie has disappeared. But if I say 50% of the pies, it's plural now, have disappeared. Population is singular. I am coming to that, Davin. There is a sentence here. I am coming to that. 1/3 of the city. 1/3, it's a portion of the city. City is singular. 1/3 of the city is unemployed. City is singular, that is why is. But when I say 1/3 of the people, 1/3 of the people, now people is plural. 1/3 of the people are unemployed. Okay. And by the way, Damini, population is singular. Population is singular. We say population is increasing. Can we say population are increasing? The population has decreased. Okay. Okay. So now one question from my side. One question from my side. Okay. What will you do in this case? 1/3 of the people of the city is or are unemployed. Now tell me. Are. Why? Why? Now see what happens. Very good. Very, very good, Davini. Absolutely. 1/3 indicates portion, right? But it is the portion of the people. So whatever rule of construction is applicable here. But after people, you have another of construction of the city. This of construction is not talking about portion. People is not talking about portion. The word people does not tell you portion. So if after this word you have an of construction, then rule number 4 will apply, which means you have to ignore this. So your subject is actually people, and that is why you'll have to mark you'll have to mark R. Did you get this? Okay. All of the pie is gone. All indicates portion. All of the pies are gone. Some of the pie is missing, and some of the pies are missing. Some also indicates portion. This is exception number 2 to rule number 4 and 5. Exception number 2. Rule number 4 and 5 takes most of the time, so don't worry. There is a third exception to rule 4 and 5. Third exception. Okay. The third exception is there are 5 indefinite pronouns which will always be plural. There are 5 indefinite pronouns which will always be plural. What are these 5 indefinite pronouns? Both, few, many, several, and others. These are 5 that will always be plural. So we were actually discussing indefinite pronouns. If you remember, we were actually discussing indefinite pronouns. We discussed that indefinite pronouns are generally singular. What exceptions are there? First exception is that if it is a sanam pronoun, then it can be singular as well as plural. If there is any word which indicates portion, then it can be singular or plural, depending on the of construction. And the third exception is that there are 5 indefinite pronouns that are always and always plural, and these 5 are both, few, many, several, and others. So you can see many have answered the invitation for Friday evening. A few are not coming at all. Several indicate that they will be late. Both performances were cancelled. The Supreme Court is the only court specifically established by the Constitution, and all the others were created by Parliament. So our indefinite pronouns are here: many, few, several, both, others. These are 5 indefinite pronouns that are always plural. Just take a look. Anybody has any issue till now? Anybody? This is actually a lot of information, so you will have to go through this PPT 2-3 times. Okay, it's practically impossible to remember all the rules in just one sitting. Okay. Now let's come to rule number 6. Very easy. As a general rule, then two or more subjects, when they are connected by the word and, then you will use a plural verb. It is immaterial whether these two subjects, one is singular, the other one is plural, both are singular, both are plural. That is immaterial. If the connection is with the word and, then you will have to use a plural verb because then the subject becomes plural. For example, over here you can see a car and a bike are by means of transportation. So both car and bike are singular, but connection is with and. Joe and his friends are going to the beach. One is singular, the other one is plural, but the connection is with and. We'll have to use a plural verb. Mathematics, history, and science. All of them are singular because they are name of subjects, but the connection is with the word and. That is why you will have to use a plural verb. Mathematics, history, and science are required high school subjects. So this is the easiest rule to remember. Whenever the connection is with the word and, it automatically becomes plural, with just one exception. There's one exception here. There are some some words that actually do not they do not signify two things. They actually are treated as one entity. So even though you are using the word and, but it's just one entity, and in that case, the verb cannot be plural. It will have to be singular. So what is this exception? Exception is that sometimes there are two subjects which function as a single unit or item. So even though they are connected with the word and, they will still take a singular verb. For example, when I say Sita and Geeta, it's a name of a movie. It's one entity. Sita and Geeta was a good movie. Even though I have used and, but it's name of one entity, one movie. So I have to use a singular verb. Chola and bhatura is tasty. Why I'm using singular verb? Because it's a name of a dish. It's a name of a dish. Chola and bhatura is tasty. There are other phrases like this. For example, fish and chips. Fish and chips is name of a dish. Bacon and eggs is name of a dish. Research and development is one entity. Research and development is required. You can't say research and development are required. Yes, Raj. Bread and butter. Bread and butter is required for sustenance. Many people say this. Bread and butter is required for sustenance. Is required, are required thing, because it becomes one entity. Okay, this is the only exception. This is the only exception to rule number 6. Did you understand this? Okay, rule number 7. Let's come to rule number 7. Like I told you, ignore additives because additives are nothing but modifiers. Sometimes the subject is separated from the verb by words such as, now remember these words like along with, in addition to, as well as, accompanied by, together with, including, besides. These words are nothing but modifiers. They are called additives. And just like other modifiers, you will have to ignore these expressions when determining whether you have to use a singular or a plural verb. So when I say Sumesh as well as Randeep, so I'm only talking about Sumesh. Sumesh accompanied by Randeep. I'm only talking about Sumesh. Sumesh in addition to Randeep. Again, I'm only talking about Sumesh, right? So remember, you will have to ignore the additives. The politician, along with the newsman, is or are expected shortly. We are talking about just a politician. His friends, together with his brother, we're talking about his friends. Okay? So in both the cases, answer is going to be like this. Excitement as well as nervousness is or are the cause of her shaking. We're talking about excitement. So we'll have to use is. Mathematics, in addition to history and subject. Mathematics, it is the name of a subject. Okay, and name of a subject is always singular. So that is why in both the cases we require singular verb. Excitement is the cause of a shaking. Mathematics is a required subject. A very simple rule, without any exception. Rule number 7 does not have any exception. Now, generally, whatever rules we will discuss, they will not have exceptions. Rule number 4 and 5 has a lot of exceptions. Otherwise, most of the other rules are pretty straightforward. Number 8. Whenever you use the expression the number, and remember, the subject is singular. When you use the number, the subject is singular. When you use a number, the subject is plural. And accordingly, you'll have to use a plural verb or a singular verb, whether you are using the number or a number. Pretty simple. You can see some sentences here. The number singular hota hai, of people we need to hire is 13. R 13 nahi ho sakta. It cannot be R 13. A number plural. A number of people have written in about this subject. The number of hard-working students in this class is quite large. Generally people think that hard-working students is the subject. But see, it is off construction. There's an off construction which means that I'll have to ignore all this. A number which is plural, a number of students in the class are hard workers. So whenever you have sentences with a number, it becomes plural. Whenever you have sentences with the number, it is singular. As simple as that. No exceptions. Rule number 8. Are you with me till now? Anybody has any issue? Rule number 8. Right. Rule number 9. Collective nouns are singular. Most of the times they are singular. Okay? Collective nouns refer to a group of people. Examples are words like administration, army, audience, class, crowd, faculty, orchestra, team. We say the team is playing well. The class is noisy. The faculty is in a meeting. So collective nouns are generally singular. Remember, whenever you discuss any group, any set, any sum, or a collection of something, and you want to discuss it as a group, then it is considered singular, and that is why it will require a singular verb. We say the class is noisy. This is what happens generally. Okay? This is what we generally follow. That collective nouns are singular. The crowd is cheering. Our army is attacking the enemy. The staff is in a meeting. My group of fourth graders is well behaved. A class of 90 students is difficult to handle. The entire amount of 200 crores was spent on infrastructure. You can see these are all collective nouns. crowd, army, staff, group, class, amount. But now again, there's some complication here. Even though collective nouns are singular, sometimes when we use collective nouns, we don't want to discuss the group as a whole. We want to discuss individual members of this group. Okay? Individual members of this group. There are many times then that when we use a collective noun, we don't want to talk about this group as a whole, as one entity. We want to talk about individual members of this group. So when you want to emphasize individual members, then collective nouns become plural. So if you say the staff are in a meeting. When you say this, then the meaning changes. Then you're not talking about the group. You're talking about the individual members of the staff. You're not talking about the group staff, but you're talking about individual members. Okay? So you can see some examples here. There can be situations when a group, a collection, or a set is discussed and you want to lay emphasis on the members of it. If you want to lay emphasis on the members, then it is considered plural, and that is why you'll have to use a plural verb. For example, when you say, the police are still looking for him, that means you're talking about the policemen. You're not talking about police force as a whole. You're talking about policemen. The police have arrested the perpetrator. You're talking about policemen and not the police force as a whole. So in the above two examples, we are talking about the police officers. But when I say the police is corrupt, then I'm talking about the group, the entire group called police. Yes, Nikita. The police is looking for him. If you say the police is looking for him, that means the police as a whole, as a group, is looking for him. As one entity is looking for him. But if you say the police are looking for him, that means you're talking about some members. Okay? So that depends on where you want to place the emphasis. That depends. So it can be generally, most of the times you will see that collective nouns are singular. Most of the times. Okay? But exceptions are always there. Okay. The class were divided on the issue. If you're using a plural, that means you're not talking about the class as a whole. You're talking about students of the class. But when you say a class of 90 students was difficult to take, then you are talking about class as an entity. If you say the team are always fighting among themselves, then you're talking not about the team as a whole, but you're talking about team members, individual team members. So depending on what is your intention, it can become singular. It can become plural also. Collective nouns can become plural also. Right? This was rule number 9. Now let's come to rule number 10. Now rule number 10 is interesting. If a subject is preceded by the words each, every, neither, or either, then the subject automatically becomes singular and it will require singular verb form. So if there is a subject and before that subject you have words like each, every, neither, either, then that subject automatically becomes singular. Now remember, it should be neither. It should be neither, not neither nor. Neither nor nahi hona chahiye. It should just be neither. Okay. Similarly, don't confuse this with either or. Either X or Y. This rule is not applicable in these cases. Just the word neither, just the word either, just the word each, or just the word every. If they come before the subject, then the subject automatically becomes singular. I'll show you some examples here. Every dog has paws. Every dog and cat. Now see, even though dog and cat, it seems plural here because there's a connection with the word and, but the word every before it makes it singular. Every dog and cat has paws. Each of these shirts, it seems that shirts is plural, but because the word each comes before shirts, it becomes singular. Neither of the shirts is pretty. And number 5, this is something where we make a lot of mistakes. Either of the dishes are fine. That is what people say. But before the word dishes, you have the word either, it becomes singular. Either of the dishes is fine. You can't say are fine. Did you get this? Yeah? Okay. Now, remember that this rule is only applicable if these words come before the subject. They have to be before the subject. If they are after the subject, then these words have no impact. For example, say I told you, please note that when these words follow a subject, then it has no bearing on the verb form. They have to precede the subject, not follow. If they follow the subject, then it has no bearing on the verb form. You can see. They each, the word they, after the word they you have each. So it has no impact. They is plural, that is why you use a plural verb. They each are great tennis players. Did you get this? Rule number 10. Okay. I could not hear. Nikita, what you could not hear? Yes, I will repeat. I will repeat this rule, this entire rule, or or this one. This one, okay. I told you that if there is a subject here, okay, and before the subject, you have words like each, every, either, neither, then the subject becomes singular. But if these words are after the subject, then it has no impact. Okay. So I showed you one example. Over here, you can see the example. They each. The word each comes after the subject, and that is why it has no impact. They is plural. That is why we use the plural verb are. They each are great tennis players. This is rule number 10. Number 11. Rule number 11. Now this rule has no exceptions. Rule number 11 says that those things that are uncountable, they are always singular. Always. And that is why they will always take singular verb forms. Uncountable things are always singular. That is why they will always take singular verb forms. If you are in doubt whether something is countable or uncountable, then you can perform the counting test whenever you are in doubt. To perform the counting test means simply start counting it. Many people think that money is countable, but that is not true. Money is uncountable. Because if I ask you to count money, can you say 1 money, 2 money, 3 money, 4 money, 5 money? No. Can you say 1 water, 2 water, 3 water, 4 water? No. So if you cannot say 1, 2, 3, 4 with any object, that means that object is not countable. Can you say 1 beauty, 2 beauty, 3 beauty? 1 information, 2 information, 3 information, 4 information? No, you can't say that. So money, water, beauty, information, these are uncountable, and that is why we have used singular verbs, because uncountable objects are always singular. So whenever you are in doubt, start counting it. You'll automatically come to know whether it is singular or plural. Now you may say that money is uncountable, but why do we say rupees? Remember, money per se is uncountable. The unit of money is countable. The unit of money is countable. You can count you can count the notes. You can count the rupees, the coins, but you cannot count money per se. So the unit is countable. Similarly, unit of water is also countable. For example, 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters, 4 liters. So the unit of water is countable. What is the unit of information? Pieces. I have 3 pieces of information, 5 pieces of information, 5 sources of information, like this. So the unit is countable, but information, beauty, water, money themselves are uncountable. And that is why they will require singular verbs. Okay, is this clear? Rule number 11. Anybody have any doubt till rule number 11? Please ask. Number 12. Rule number 12 says that if there are 2 subjects and before each of these 2 subjects there is an article. There are 2 subjects and both the 2 subjects is preceded with an article, then the verb will be plural, because it signifies that you are talking about 2 different individuals or things. However, when there are 2 subjects and only the first subject has an article preceding it, then the verb will be singular, because then it signifies that you're talking about the same person. The person is same. What is the meaning of this? The meaning will be clear here. If you look at the first sentence, it says the politician and the businessman. So there are 2 subjects, politician and businessman, and both of them have an article. When both the subjects have an article, the implication is that these are 2 different people. And they are 2 different people, that means plural ho gaya. That is why you'll have to use a plural verb. But in the second situation, you can see politician and businessman, 2 subjects hai, but only the first one has the article. Then the implication is that the politician and businessman, ye dono ek hi hai. There's one person. This person is both a politician and as well as a businessman. It's one person. And because it's one person, that is why I'll have to use a singular verb. Okay, very simple. Very simple. If there are 2 subjects, both of them have articles, that means we are talking about 2 different people. If there are 2 subjects, only the first one has an article, that means you're talking about the same person, and that is why you'll have to use a singular verb. This is rule number 12. 3-4 more rules to go. Number 13. Rule number 13. In exams, you will see they will give you sentences like this. He is one of the boys who or that. Any of the students who or that. So when you have these kind of sentences, then remember generally what is going to be the structure. It will say one or any of the. After that, there is going to be a noun. This noun will always be plural. One of the bats, any of the bats. One of the students, any of the students. One of the books, any of the books. This noun will always be plural. And after this noun, if you have the words that or who, If and only if you have the words that and who, then the subject becomes plural, and that is why you have to use a plural verb. Remember this. When you have sentences like this, one of the, any of the, after this, always the noun that will follow will be plural. It will always be plural. And after that plural noun, if you have the words that or who, then it becomes plural. Then the subject becomes plural, and that is why you will have to use a plural verb. This is something, rule number 13 is something in which lots of students are confused. Many students are confused, so please pay attention to the example sentences. Here, he is one of the students. This is plural. After that, you have the word who. If that is the case, you will have to use a plural verb. Any of the members, which is plural, who, because you have the word who, you will have to use a plural verb. Any of the members who disagree may leave the committee. This is one of the questions. This is one of the questions that, okay, that are incorrect. It will be plural. He is one of the student. He is one of the students. होना चाहिए निकिता. After one of the, okay, or any of the. When you have this one of the, any of the, after that whatever subject comes cannot be singular. It has to be plural always. He is one of the students here. That is correct. Okay. So remember, when you have these expressions, one of the, any of the, then remember the subject is always plural, and the subject is always plural only and only after, if after the subject you have the words who or that. No, but Pragya, one of the books that you were one of the books that you were talking about, one of the books that you were talking about is my favorite. No, this is not wrong. This is not wrong, because how it is not wrong? Because you have changed the sentence. You have changed the format. After that you have actually added another subject. After the word that, you have added another subject. You were talking about. Okay. But you has plural verbs. Yeah, so what? So what? I will just come to that. I will just come to that, Pragya. Wait. I think what you are talking about is addressed over here. Okay, it is addressed in the next slide. So I was telling you that whenever you have the words who or that, okay, whenever you have the words who or that, only and only then you will use a plural verb. And Pragya, see what is the difference in your sentence and the difference over here. Immediately after the word who or that, immediately after the word who or that, you will find the verb. Whereas in your sentence, immediately after the word who or that, there is no verb. You have changed the form of the sentence. Do you get this difference? Okay? Okay. Not very convinced means? No, that is the rule. There is nothing to be convinced. That is the rule. It has to be in the same form. It has to be in this form. After the word who or that, if there is a verb, then that verb will be plural. If after the word who or that there is no verb, then this rule does not apply. As simple as that. I'm only talking about that situation where after the word who or that there is a verb. It is important that you have the word who or that, because if the words who or that are not there, then also this rule does not apply. Then also this rule does not apply. Remember, I told you, remember this. One or any of the X, who or that, after that you have Y. This is the verb. So you have to pay attention. One, you have to use the word who or that. After the word who or that, there has to be a verb. Only then this rule applies. Otherwise, this rule does not apply. I'll show you. I, let us just see this. One of the chairs. Why do I say is broken? Why do I say is broken and not are broken? Because after the words chairs, we don't have the words who or that. Yes. So when you say one of the chairs, it becomes one. It becomes singular. And that is why we use a singular verb. So it is only when the plural noun is followed by that or who that the singular verb changes into plural. Otherwise it does not. Otherwise it does not. Okay? So it has to be in the same format. If you change the format, then everything will change. Okay. This was rule number 13. Yeah, rule number 13. Anybody has a doubt here? 14. Many sentences are constructed like this. Many a. When you have many a, okay? When you have many a, then you'll always see that after many a, there'll always be a singular noun. There'll always be a singular noun. So what happens? This entire sentence, the subject becomes singular, and that is why you will have to use singular verbs. If you say, many a man has lost his life at sea. Many a child has suffered in this war. So when you have these constructions, many a, then after these constructions, you generally have a singular noun. So the verb that you will use will be singular because the subject becomes singular. Many a man becomes singular. Many a child becomes singular, even though you are using the word many. This is rule number 14. Okay? Right? Okay. Number 15. I think this is the second last rule. Number 15. There is something called the subjunctive mood. There is something called the subjunctive mood. Okay? Whenever you frame sentences and your sentence expresses a wish, it gives a command, it places a demand, or it states something which is contrary to fact. So whenever a sentence expresses a wish, it commands, it demands, or it states something which is contrary to fact, then we say that the verb is in the subjunctive mood, and the verb is, when the verb is in the subjunctive mood, it is always plural. It is always plural. Okay? So whenever a verb is used in a subjunctive mood, it is always plural. How do you know that the verb is in the subjunctive mood? If the sentence is expressing a wish, a command, a demand, or is saying something which is contrary to fact, then it is in the subjunctive mood. For example, if you say, if Joe were here, you would be sorry. Why don't we say if Joe was here? Because Joe is singular. So shouldn't Joe be followed by was because Joe is singular? But the fact is Joe isn't actually here. So this is something which is contrary to fact. And that is why this sentence demonstrates the subjunctive mood. What does the subjunctive mood do? Generally, it expresses things that are hypothetical, wishful, imaginary, factually contradictory. If I were you, I would not do it. Yes. If I were you, I would not do it. But the fact is that you are not that person. Why do you say long live the king? The king. The king is singular. Why do you say long live the king? Why don't you say long lives the king? Because that is your wish. Absolutely, that is what you wish, right? I'll show you some more examples here. Some more examples are here. I suggest, it is what you want, right? I suggest that he implement, plural ho gaya na? It is subjunctive mode. That is what you want. I suggest that he implement a budget cut in March. I strongly recommend that he retire, plural. That is what you want. It is your command, demand. If there were a death penalty for corporations, Enron may have earned it. It is something which is contrary to fact. Long live the queen. It is your wish. Okay? Even though this is what the subjunctive mode rule states, even though this is what the subjunctive mode rule states, I have seen in many books, they don't follow this rule. There are many authors who don't follow this rule. They actually say, if I was you. So many writers. Okay, I wish I were a cricketer होना चाहिए था Mohit. If you go by the rules, होना तो चाहिए था I wish I were a cricketer. Yes, the rule applies here. But problem is that I wish I was a cricketer. That is also something which people have started accepting. I've seen many authors, even though the sentence is in the subjunctive mood, they will use singular verbs. That is something which I've seen many people do. But as far as rules are concerned, subjunctive mood will require plural verbs. That is what I wanted to tell you. Right. Now we have covered all these situations. Weren't the authors questioned about it? Actually, see, language is always in a state of flux. Language is always in a state of flux for it. Okay. And the intention of any language is to communicate. So let us not become grammarians. Let us not become pedantic. If I am able to convey my thoughts, so even if it is not grammatically correct, it's still okay because you understand. That is what languages are for. Okay, that is what I also believe. So this is just for examination point of view, but practical utility तो थोड़ी कमी है. There are so many rules that we don't follow, right? Okay, and last but not the least, I've already told you this. Whenever you are in doubt, think singular. Think singular means what? Confusing subjects are more often singular than plural, and therefore they will usually require singular verb forms. If you are in a confusion, then it is always and always advisable to select a singular verb because there is a higher chance of it being right. Okay, this is something which I've already told you. Now, anything you did not understand? Anything you did not understand? Okay. So I'll show you some example sentences over here. You can see the traveling salesman was dismayed to learn that neither his sons nor his daughter were interested in moving. He's using neither nor. Excuse me. He's using neither nor. One is plural, one is singular. So what will happen? I'll have to use a verb which is singular because the verb is closer to daughter. Yes. So how can I correct it? The traveling salesman was dismayed to learn that neither his sons nor his daughter was interested in moving. It cannot be were interested. I was so thirsty that either of the two drinks, because the word either precedes drinks, it becomes singular. So I cannot use were. I will have to use was. I was so thirsty that either of the two drinks was fine with me. Are you getting this? This is just a recapitulation of what we have done. A number of players on the team have. A number is plural. A number of players on the team have improved since last session. So there is no error here. Number 4. A bouquet of yellow roses. This bouquet is of yellow roses, that is immaterial. Our subject is singular, so I cannot use lend. I'll have to use the singular verb lends. A bouquet of yellow roses lends color and fragrance to the room. Number 5. She demanded, subjunctive mood, she demanded that he leaves the hospital premises. Because it is subjunctive mood, we'll have to use singular verb. Sorry, plural verb, not singular. She demanded that he leave the hospital premises. Number 6. Just around the corner is a bakery and a supermarket. So there are two things, bakery and supermarket. So I cannot use is because there are two things. It has to be are. Just around the corner are a bakery and a supermarket. Then number 7. The young bride as well as her husband were amazed. We are actually talking about the young bride. This is an adjective. So young bride is singular. That is why we should use singular verb. The young bride as well as her husband was amazed by the generosity of the wedding guests. Neither she nor her parents, neither nor. One is singular, one is plural. One is singular, one is plural. Now, parents is plural. So I cannot use a singular verb here. Because parents is plural and the verb is closer to the plural subject, I will have to use plural verb understand. Neither she nor her parents understand the challenging math problem. Okay? So is this clear for all of you? Right. Based on this, there is a small exercise here. You can see there is a small exercise, and this exercise I will give you 10 minutes. There are how many questions? There are 20 questions in this exercise. You can move from one slide to the next. There are a total of 8 slides. Okay. Now based on what we have learned, try to solve these 20 questions. I'll give you 10-15 minutes, and then we'll see what should be the answers. Please start. Pragya, because you are using a mobile phone, I don't think you will be able to navigate. You will not be able to move from one slide to the next. So I think you'll have to stay put till the others complete it, and then you can participate in the discussion. Okay? Please start. Okay, I think that is sufficient time. So let's take a look. Question number one. Question number one. Although a surge, although a surge in retail sales have raised hopes, because we are talking about a surge, I think it is singular. A surge is singular. There is going to be a surge in what? There is going to be a surge in retail sales. So we cannot have the word have here. We should have the word has. A surge in retail sales has raised hopes that there is a recovery finally underway. Which means answer for question number one should be D. Yes or no? Okay. If anybody has any objection or any doubt, please stop me. Okay. Nikita C had, although a surge in retail sales had raised hopes that there is a recovery finally. How it can be had? If there is a recovery finally underway, yeah, it cannot be had. It cannot be past tense. Question number two. The peaks of a mountain range, acting like rocks in a stream bed, produce ripples in the air flowing over them. The resulting flow pattern with crests and troughs that remain stationary, although the air that forms them is moving rapidly, are known as standing waves. If you look at the second part, what does it say? The second part is talking about the resulting flow pattern. So your subject is the resulting flow pattern, which is singular. It is singular. The resulting flow pattern is singular. Now this is all extra information about the resulting flow pattern. If this is all extra information, then you cannot use the word are. The resulting flow pattern is known as standing waves. Yes or no? It is known as standing waves. That is another matter, that this resulting flow pattern, it has crests and troughs that remain stationary, although the air that flows, that forms them is moving rapidly. All that is extra information about the resulting flow pattern. That is why answer for this question is number C, I think, yes. Damini, air that forms them. Yes. The air that forms the crests and troughs. Them refers to the crests and troughs. Number E will not make sense, Nikita. The resulting flow pattern with stationary crests and troughs, although they are formed by rapidly moving air, does not make sense. Yes? Yes or no? The word although does not seem to be in the correct place. In number E. If there were comma after although, then yes, number E could also have been right. Yes. And probably if there were some changes in E, if we make some changes, then E also can be right. But in the present form, it is not right. Number three. Question number three. While all states face similar industrial waste problems, the predominating industries and the regulatory environment of the states obviously determines the types and amounts of waste produced as well as the cost of disposal. If you see, it says the predominating industries, and so this is one, and number two, the regulatory environment. These are two things that obviously determine. This is plural. This is plural. It cannot be determined because there are two things, which means that your answer can either be B or it can be E. It can either be B or it can be E. Okay? What is going to be the answer, whether it's going to be B or it's going to be E? It should be E. Yes, I also think it should be E. Why? Because it says, when I read it like this, while each state faces a similar industrial waste problem. Now, each state, because the word each comes up before the word state, it becomes singular. Singular, right? If it is singular, why am I using a plural pronoun here? Their predominant industries. I should have used a singular pronoun because my subject is singular. That is why answer should be E and not B. And why should we unnecessarily change the form from all states to each state? It is better to keep it as uh, you know uh, as close as possible to the original sentence. That is why answer for this question is E for question number 3. Number From question number 4, it is telling you correct the following sentences if necessary and give reasons for your corrections. Let's see. The result of all these lengthy legal actions, counterclaims, and appeals stretching over several months. What was the result? The result was simply huge bills from the lawyers and nothing else. All of this is of construction. It is immaterial. We are talking about the result. What was the result? The result was nothing but it was simply huge bills from the lawyers and nothing else. The result is singular, that is why we use singular verb. Neither his brother nor his sister, either nor, both of them are singular, so it cannot be were, it has to be was. Number 6, a necklace of diamonds presented by friends of the bride were among the presents on view. Now this is a necklace. This necklace is of diamonds, immaterial. It was presented by friends of the bride, immaterial. Additives nahi hai. So a necklace was. A necklace was among the presents on view. Absolutely. Number 7. Neither of these books. Because the word neither comes before books, it cannot be plural. It has to be singular. Neither of these books is any good to me. Because when the subject is preceded by either, each, every, then it becomes singular. Neither of these books is any good to me. This is 7. Anybody has doubt till now? Excuse me. Number 8. The whole block of buildings, including 2 furniture stores and a drapery establishment, it is the whole block. Now this block is of buildings including 2 furniture stores and drapery establishment. All that is extra information. We're talking about the whole block. It is singular. That is why we will say the whole block was destroyed in the fire. Okay. Number 9. The staff is deciding how they want to vote. Now, even though the word staff, the staff can be singular, plural, both. But I have used the word they. The pronoun that I have used is plural. I'm calling they. I'm calling staff they. This means that I'm talking about staff members and not the group as a whole. If I'm talking about individual members, I cannot have the word is. I'll have to use a plural verb. The staff are deciding how they want to vote. Did you understand? Okay. Number 10. The board, the board was united in their support. Now, as far as the board is concerned, I'm using the word there. Huh? Raj, how it will be used in singular? Okay, how can we use it in singular? Okay, the staff is deciding how it wants to vote. The staff is deciding how it. Instead of the word they, I should have used the word it. How it wants to vote. Okay, then it would have been singular. Nikita, that is what I just said. The staff is deciding how it wants to vote. If it is it is written in that way, that means it is singular. Both changes can be correct. Yes, both changes can be correct. But in that case, you would have to change the pronoun and the verb. You will have to make two changes. In that case, you will have to change the word they also. You will have to change the word want also. Whereas in this case, you are only changing one word, and that is the word is. Okay. Number 10. Number 10, the same thing happens. The board was united in their support. If I'm using the word there, that means I'm not talking about the board as a whole, I'm talking about board members. If I'm talking about the board members, then I cannot use the word was, I'll have to use were. The board were united in their support of the company's legal actions and appeals. Are you getting this? Or, or what I can do is, I can say the board was united in its support of the company's legal actions and appeals. Both ways it will work. Both ways. Number 11. The reviewers agree that this is one of the most interesting novels. That's when you have this construction, you cannot have a singular verb. You'll have to have a plural verb. It is one of the most interesting novels that have recently been issued. Number 12. Each one of the dogs, because the word each precedes dogs, it becomes singular. Each one of the dogs in the show requires, I will have to use a singular verb. Each one of the dogs in the show requires a special kind of diet. Okay. Number 13. The shiny new cars and the spacious stations of the city's first subway system are certainly impressive. But the number of delays, when I'm talking about the number is singular. The number of delays is as annoying and inexplicable as we feared. So number 13, I'll have to use the word is. Number 14, the crafting of miniature enamel boxes, which was so popular 2 centuries ago. I'm actually talking about the crafting. My subject is the crafting. All this is extra information about the crafting. Extra information. So if I remove all this, my subject is singular. I'll have to use a singular verb. Has been revived in England with great commercial success. Number 15. Inspired by the theories of French philosophers, the ringing phrases of the Declaration of Independence. Because it is phrases, it is plural. These phrases are of the Declaration of Independence, that is extra information. We're talking about plural things, phrases. That is why I'll have to use a plural verb, testify. Ringing phrases, matlab they are rhyming. They probably rhyme. Okay? Are you getting this? Whatever changes I'm making, why I'm making these changes, are you getting this? All of you? If anybody has any doubt, please ask. Number 16. The conditions governing the truce, which has been arranged by the United Nations. So it is the conditions that we are talking about. These conditions govern the truce. The truce has been arranged by United Nations. All this is extra information about the conditions. So the conditions is plural. So what will we say? The conditions have not been revealed. Whatever you see in between is extra information about the conditions. These conditions govern the truce, and the truce has been arranged by the United Nations. All that is extra information. So the conditions have not been revealed. This should be the answer for 16. 17. Paul Revere 1967 engraving of Harvard's first colleges, emphasizing the rural setting more than the building themselves, offer little evidence of the institution's growing prominence. We are actually talking about Paul Revere's 1967 engraving. It is singular. This is singular. This engraving is of Harvard's first colleges. It emphasizes the rural setting more than the building themselves. That is all extra information. The engraving offers, it has to be singular. It cannot be offered. It offers little evidence of the institution's growing prominence. Okay? 18. Inspired by Caravaggio's discoveries, Artemisia's work, surely the most accomplished among the paintings by women artists, are revelatory or is revelatory? Is revelatory. Because we are talking about Artemisia's work. We have extra information that Artemisia's work is influenced by Caravaggio's discoveries. We have also extra information that it is surely the most accomplished among the paintings by women artists. But actually we are talking about Artemisia's work, which is singular. And because which is singular, we say Artemisia's work is revelatory, R is wrong, of an important period in European art. This is question number 18. Number 19. Each of the questions consists of a certain number of sentences. Some sentences are grammatically correct or inappropriate. You have to select the option which indicates the grammatically incorrect and inappropriate sentence. So which one is incorrect? That is what we have to find. Neither the teachers nor the principal, neither nor, one is plural, one is singular, knows, correct? Knows whether the storm will close the roads. Okay? Which one is incorrect? This is correct. Number A is correct. Whose are these pair of trousers? When you talk about pair, it is a pair. A pair of something is always plural. Whose is this? Whose is this pair of trousers? So are these wrong together? This is wrong. Number C. Ramesh is one of those boys who love cricket. Not loves cricket. Wrong. Priyanka, your answer is wrong. 5 to nahi sakta because he is also wrong. Neither of the answers is valid. Correct. Answers is plural, but it is preceded by the word neither. So it becomes singular. It becomes singular. That is why I have used singular verb. Correct. Number E. The jury were unable to come to an agreement on the case. That means it is the jury members, they were not able to decide. The jury members were not able to decide. When I say the jury were unable to come to an agreement, that means the members could not agree. It is right. B and C. Answer is 2. Answer is 2. Okay. Why did I mark number E as correct? Because we are talking about the jury members. Had we been discussing the jury and as well as the judge, some other entity, then we would be discussing about then jury would be one group. The jury is not in agreement with the judge, so this group is not in agreement with the judge. But over here there is no second entity, which means we are talking about the jury members. Correct. Did you understand, Damini? Because you marked 4. This is 19, and the last question is here, 20. Either the inspector or his subordinates, either or, this is wrong. Either the inspector or the subordinates, R line is wrong. Neither of the plans, before plans you have the word neither, that is why you are having a singular verb. Correct. B is correct. The height and simplicity of the Qutub Minar explain its popularity among Indians and foreigners alike. What do you think? Correct? Wrong. Why? Because there's an article here. The height and simplicity. There is no article before simplicity, so it becomes one entity. That is what you're trying to say? Explains. Yes. Yes, correct. Explains. I think that is right. So this is wrong. The height and simplicity becomes one entity because article is just before the first one. It becomes one singular. That is why it should be singular verb. Explains. Number D. Prakash is not one of those boys who stand. It has to be plural. Wrong. The mail with its attachments. We're talking about the mail. The mail was correct. With its attachments is extra information about the mail. The mail was received this week. Correct. So which all are incorrect? A, C and D. A, C and D. A, C and D means number 5. Yes. Number 5 should be the answer. Please take a look and let me know if there is any doubt. Anything you did not understand. Anything requires clarification? Okay, so like I told you last time also, in last class also I told you there is a website, chomchomp.com. It is very simple. It is very easy. There are exercises on subject-verb agreements. Please go through those exercises. When we meet tomorrow, we will take a look at pronoun errors. Tomorrow same time, we will take a look at pronoun errors. Okay? That's it from my side for today. Good night. I think you have another session from 9. So take care. I'll see you tomorrow.
Music